Thank you so much, Minda, for being with us today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm primarily a writer. That's basically been my career, and I've been writing for the website of Inc. magazine and Inc. magazine for a lot of years. And I've been writing a column that through most of my time writing it has been basically a daily column that gets about 1 million page views a month. I actually write about the column a little bit in the book, but as I was writing the column, I was writing it every day. So I had to come up with all these topics all the time. And when you're writing online, if you have access to the information, you could find out in real time what people care about. And as I was writing, it's handy. If you see the traffic, it's like, yeah, a lot of people are clicking on this one. Nobody's clicking on that one. Okay. So as I started writing columns about being more mindful at work, taking care of yourself and how that works with your career, greater productivity, ways things like, don't multitask because it doesn't help you and it's bad for your brain and all that stuff. People really seem to like that. So, and I did too, because I was using all that advice, everything I wrote about, I was trying out myself. So I kind of drifted more and more in that direction. And I got more and more of this information about how to do life better, work better, combine them better, be more productive, spend fewer hours doing more stuff that was important and less stuff that was unimportant. And it grew up into a book.
Love it. That real-time comments, right? Definitely can see what people are interested in. So now I know the inspiration about your book, right? And so things you saw, what people were saying, providing mindfulness tips to them. One thing I really love about the book is you separated it into 5 parts. Can you talk to us a little bit about that structure and why you said you did it that way?
Yeah, no, I love that question because no one has ever asked me about that before. So in general, I think it's easier if you're giving somebody a whole lot of information to chunk it out in as many ways as you can to make it easier to absorb, especially these days when so much information is flying at us all the time.
Right.
But as far as the sections in the book are concerned, though, there's kind of a natural progression. So in the first section, so there's 5. Let's see if we'll remember them right and get them in the right order. So the first one kind of lays out the whole question of why taking care of yourself and being kind of a human being at work is a good thing and something that the world should encourage, as well as something people should try to do for themselves. The second part really looks at the other people that you're working with, because that's really what work is all about. And we love our jobs or hate our jobs in large part in relation to the people we're working with, and the people that we work with and have in our lives are instrumental to our success or not success.
Right.
So the third part was really about how to go after your goals, which I think is so important, how to figure out exactly where you want to be, how to try to do more of the things that you love and less of the things that you don't love, which is different for everyone. The fourth part is about how to balance. So the term work-life balance is one that people rag on. And I'm not sure there's a better one out there. People say work-life integration, but it is true that in both on a day-to-day basis, right? Am I going to finish this project, or am I going to go watch my kid play soccer? Or on a global, more life-size basis, we're constantly choosing what our priorities are in terms of our lives, ourselves as human beings, and the work that we do. And so how do we figure that out? Especially how do we figure that out when we have partners, when we have parents, when we have children, when we have families? So that's something that we all have to figure out for ourselves. So that's the fourth part. And then the end is kind of bringing it all together and thinking about ourselves as entire human beings in this world and in our work world, and how mindfulness and how brain science, which is really related to mindfulness, can make us more effective and more successful. So that's, and ultimately happier. The last chapter is about happiness, which is super important. And I know we're going to talk about that a little bit. So that's how the 5 things kind of came together for me.
That's exactly what I thought, but I didn't want to guess. I love the progression of it. I did feel like it kind of asked me the whys in the beginning, centered in who I was, who am I in the workplace, and then like the whole self. So I thought that was so good. Um, there's a quote from the chat in the book that I loved in chapter 3, and I'm going to read it so I don't mess it up. And this quote literally stopped me in my tracks. You're invited to bring your whole self to work, including your child and perhaps your dog, but you're supposed to leave your medical problems or heartbreak, depression, and marriage difficulties at the door. Can we spend a little time talking about this quote and why it was important for you to dedicate this chapter about how we show up at work?
Well, I think it's interesting and a really complicated problem. I think in there I talked about, I interviewed someone who ultimately became, I guess, a career coach and a style consultant who talked about showing up at work, in his case, as a Black gay young man and feeling like he had to hide everything about who he really was. And I think all of us do that to some degree at work, and maybe, a little bit of it that is necessary. But the more we don't show up as ourselves, the more energy we're spending on trying to project whatever it is we want to be, the less energy, creativity, and heart we can put into whatever we're doing. So that's kind of the most basic thing of, show up as yourself at work. And of course, I mean, underlying all of this and every single thing I say is that ideally, right, our work and our lives make us happy. Now, they won't always, and there's other people and other factors to consider, and I understand all that. But all other things being equal, let's not spend something like a third of our lives doing something that makes us unhappy. So the more you can be yourself at work, also, the more likely you are to be happy at work. But I think, a lot of the people that I talk to and a lot of the writing that I do centers around, I'll say, Silicon Valley, and I don't literally mean Silicon Valley in California particularly, but the way that the tech industry has kind of rewritten the rules,
Right.
of how we work and what we do, right? I mean, before there was the tech industry, nobody ever brought their dog to work, right? It would have been unimaginable. Now it's a fairly common, not every workplace, but it's a fairly common thing. And the tech industry, of course, was, it's going to sound more political than I wanted to, but the tech industry, of course, was created by young and generally privileged people who might or might not have real problems, but somehow the requirement in the tech industry that sort of spread to a lot of workplaces is, yes, you can be human, yes, you can wear a t-shirt, you can play foosball, but the messier, grittier, tougher stuff in life wasn't necessarily welcome.
Yeah.
And, I mean, if you think about all of that, bring your kid to work, bring your dog to work, we'll have a massage therapist at work, we'll feed you, all that stuff, that's wonderful. And at the same time, it kind of encourages people, right, not to go home. If you don't have to go home to walk the dog, right, if your dog is going to pee on your carpet if you don't get home to walk it, that's pretty powerful incentive to leave work at a reasonable hour. If your dog is right there, you can just go take it, walk it around the corporate park that you probably have, and get back to your desk, then you can work a lot more hours. So this, of course, was before working at home became as ubiquitous as it is now. But so a lot of that stuff is really kind of designed to keep you more engaged at work and more at work, and that's fine. But these other parts of being human, the parts that aren't necessarily pretty, also need their space. And if we have to leave all of that at the door when we come to work, then we're not fully being ourselves.